Thank you, Jackie. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Treasure Coast Unitarian Universalist Congregation in Stuart, Florida. Today is May 15th, 2022. My name is Deb Harris, and I'll be your worship associate today. We are a welcoming congregation. We welcome people of all gender identities, races, ages, and backgrounds. It's wonderful to see all our vaccinated members in the sanctuary with your masks on, and we welcome those who are with us today via YouTube. For those who are on YouTube who are new to us, if you'd like to be put on the email list or to find out more information about us, just go to our website at tcuuc.org. And now if you'll just make sure your cell phones are silenced. We'll begin with some announcements. Coming up next Sunday is a special flower communion. Bob's going to talk more about that, so I'll let him fill you in. You're also invited to linger after the service for coffee and refreshments. However, just please note that the volunteers will start cleaning up at 12:30 so that the church can be closed and locked at 1 p.m. So thank you. Remember that on the first and third Tuesdays at the Stuart Veterans Memorial Park downtown at noon is a brown bag lunch, always lots of fun. And we thank those who helped today with this service. Jackie Robbins, of course, for the beautiful music always, our host Karina Poloni, Joanne Leone, and Marguerite Gregory for the coffee and cookies that we enjoy out on the patio. And now we'll light our chalice. The words today are from Melanie Davis. If ever there were a time for a candle in the darkness, this would be it. Using a spark of hope, kindle this flame of love, ignite the light of peace, and feed the flame of justice. On Thursday night, I had chosen some opening words for today's service, but then Friday night something happened, so I put those words aside and maybe can use them at a future service. And I wanted to just share this. It was a really small thing, but it had a profound impact on me. I had made a late night run to Publix for a couple of things, and I was at the front of the store untangling the grocery cart, and I had an encounter with a man and his young son. The man was wearing a white t-shirt that had in big, huge, black, bold, capital letters, F your feelings. Only the F word was spelled out. At the time, I just looked at him. I think I was so dumbfounded. I had my mask on so he couldn't see my mouth hanging open. And so I just said, "Excuse me," and I moved away. But later on in the car, I thought of a few things that I wish I had said to him in the moment. I won't share those with you. And of course, the former elementary school teacher in me wished that I had asked him, "How do you explain your t-shirt to your young son? Is this the kind of model you want to be for him?" But didn't say that either. And I couldn't stop thinking about that. Like, how would you wear that in public? And so hateful. But the overwhelming feeling that I was left with wasn't anger, it wasn't disgust. It was thankfulness and appreciation. So thankful not to be that man. So thankful not to have such a pathetic attitude toward others. So thankful to be a UU. And so thankful to be a member of this congregation. As a UU, I must commit to care about other people's feelings. Our UU principles ask us to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of others, to show them compassion, acceptance, and encouragement, to want a world community in which there's peace, liberty, and justice for all. This seems to me a happier, more hopeful way to live our lives than the FYF public guy, his way. I'm so grateful for this UU church. To be able to gather in this beautiful sanctuary with people who care about others and their feelings renews my faith in humanity. We're guided by Reverend Bob, who models caring about others and their feelings. When we share joys and sorrows each week, I know that the people here feel happiness for one another when a joy is shared, and they feel empathy when sad news is shared. When we give support to our Indian Town family, or cook for Lahia, or take up a collection for Ukraine, to name just a few examples, we show that we care about other people's feelings and their welfare. This is a happier, more hopeful way to live our lives than the FYF public guy's way. There was an article in the Spring UU World magazine, just came recently, and the quote I want to just end with from the Reverend Frederick Gray. She said, "An ethic of love lives at the heart of our UU faith. It reflects the core question, how are we to live? It calls us to courage to continually grow and learn and adapt in ways that foster love and justice. Let this love burn brightly in our hearts and in all communities. May it be the energy and resilience we need to keep on loving, to keep on learning, to keep on showing up for each other and our neighbors in resistance to evil and in creating refuge from the trauma of oppression." And now, our first hymn, we will sing through our masks 159. This is my song. We're going to do 2 verses. And now let us recite our affirmation, speaking the first verse and singing the second through our masks. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
This is our time to share together matters of joy or sorrow. We ask that you tell us about what is pressing on your mind and heart, that they be personal matters, and you will move a stone to our symbolic river of life. Let's start this morning, Jan, by you moving 10 stones for us. For that horror in Buffalo, New York, 10 lives, it may be more than 10, but 10 lives taken by a young militia type who got a war weapon and found a store predominantly with black people. It's horrendous beyond words. And I hope we as a country don't have to say, well, that's the way it is and what we have to live with. It's just a horror. So we want something to change for those people in Buffalo and for all of us. So matters of personal joy or sorrow, who has something to share? Richard.
Oh, first I want to move a stone for Deb's opening words.
Yeah.
I felt her there.
They were beautiful. Richard.
Good morning. I would like to share, in this crazy world that we seem to be living in, and with all the horror and all the terrible things that seem to be going on, I wanted to share a moment of joy that I had yesterday. I am a blessed man. I have 3 wonderful children. And yesterday I was able to just attend a very casual music event in the park. And my son was one of 4, and it was a blues, and it was drizzling. It was a blues event, and it was drizzling. And I just realized that with everything that is going on, not to lose sight of those things that are joyous and special. I want to share that with you.
Good.
Hello, my name is Cheryl Kilpatrick. I'm Linda and Dan's daughter, longtime Unitarian since I was a teen. Anyway, I wanted to share that I have a 21-year-old son named Ian, and he attended college in Boone, North Carolina for 2 years, studying history. He loves history. Very open-minded young man, friend to all. He decided that college wasn't for him at this time, came home, told us he wanted to join the military. We are not necessarily a military family, although my grandfather fought in World War II and my father-in-law was in Vietnam. So anyway, he joined the Navy. He just called us yesterday. He finished his 2nd week of boot camp. And what I wanted to tell you all is that they put him in a leadership role within his division. And he's a very mild-mannered child, or a young man, I should say. But it makes me feel good to know in our military there's a young man like my son with the values of being a Unitarian, Like I said, it doesn't matter your background, Ian will be your friend. And the fact that they put him in this leadership role, maybe, just maybe, even within our military, he's met young people from all over the country, different backgrounds, and he is a standard at how this was sort of, that a lot of them have a hard time taking direction, and he's taking on almost a parenting role. So many of them are lost individuals who joined the military, but just rest assured, my son's there, and it's nice to know that the Navy recognized the leadership in him that he didn't see. And like I said, who knows, maybe with all the craziness going on in the world, my son will be that light within a place that's not always seen as a soft place, but the Navy, I think, might be his calling. So thank you so much.
Good, Cheryl.
Thank you for your service.
Pat, I hope you're going to report on your beloved.
I am going to report on my beloved, another wonderful person with a military background, who at various times in his life had to be called Colonel Burt or other times Dr. Burt, and whose humble and inclusive outlook would always say, "I'm just Joe." Just Joe has moved to a lower level rehab facility much closer to home, and I have overcome my total exhaustion from driving daily to Fort Pierce back and forth, and looking forward to bringing him home when he maxes out his rehab potential. And I'm eternally grateful for someone in our presence today, who will remain nameless, who gave me information about a wonderful resource person who's helping me plan for his eventual home care. And the support I feel from all of you and from his church, United Church of Christ on Skyline Drive. It is just, takes two churches to support us these days. Thank you.
Glad to hear that, Pat. Anyone else?
Just over 11 years ago, on May 5th, 2011, my wife went on a business trip and I started my last drinking binge. It lasted 4 days. At the end of it, I tried to pull the car out of the driveway and hit my wife's car twice. I immediately called her and told her what was going on. The next day, May 9th, 2011, was my first day of sobriety, so I'm celebrating 11 years of sobriety. And the thing that I think about is alcohol was for me a way to escape from the world, to go within myself. And the journey since then is for me to rejoin the world, and being in this church is a part of that rejoining. Thanks.
Wow, good for you, John.
I have a joy, which is that yesterday I like to do a lot of nonprofit stuff locally, and I played with the Treasure Coast Community Singers. And today at St. Mary's Episcopal Church, we also have a 3 p.m. program. But there's also a children's choir that Doug Jewett, who has played here for us with us, is leading in all the songs. It's a patriotic event. But all the songs that these kids are singing are about unity, and it felt like I was in this church, just watching these kids singing, and they're all beautiful tunes. And then there's one about America where they sing every state, so they're learning as they're singing, and it gave me a great joy. And it's happening again today. If anybody wants to go, it's St. Mary's Episcopal on Ocean Boulevard, and the kids are worth the little nominal price alone.
Do you want to do your stone before you? Anyone else? All right, I just want to mention, before we do the final one for those unspoken, next Saturday, I and Ronnie are driving up to a UU church in Jacksonville to do the service for Dixie Clisby. Ted has asked me to come and lead that and do the eulogy, so I will. And I just want to mention that Dixie was a great force for our good here for a number of years, and I will try to put that into words next Saturday. I also want to share that I know it's a definite grief when former spouses die. I'm sure I suspect a number of you know that grief or know of others with it. And so we hold on to Dave through this time too, because I know it's real. I've been through that too. So we move a stone with fond, loving thoughts of Dixie Clisby. Also, if anybody wants to ride along with me and Ronnie, we have room. Unless you've heard about my driving, you may not want to. And we move one more for those that we carry with us but don't say out loud, but we all know we carry a lot of joys and sorrows in our hearts. I have for a meditation a couple of poems I found from Mary Oliver, and I can only read them on my phone. So I'm going to ask our youngest member, who's in the closet, to let me know later if reading the meditation from my phone adds a little bit of cool to my portfolio. All right, seriously, these are two beauties. Mary Oliver, entitled Mysteries, Yes. Truly, we live with mysteries too marvelous to be understood. How grass can be nourishing in the mouths of the lambs. How rivers and stones are forever in allegiance with gravity, while we ourselves dream of rising. How two hands touch, and the bonds will never be broken. How people come from delight or the scars of damage to the comfort of a poem. Let me keep my distance always from those who think they have the answers. Let me keep company always with those who say, "Look," and laugh in astonishment and bow their heads. And this is called Mindful by Mary Oliver. Every day I see or I hear something that more or less kills me with delight, that leaves me like a needle in the haystack of light. It is what I was born for, to look, to listen, to lose myself inside this soft world, to instruct myself over and over in joy and acclamation. Now, nor am I talking about the exceptional, the fearful, the dreadful, the very extravagant, but of the ordinary, the common, the very drab, the daily presentations. O good scholar, I say to myself, how can you help but grow wise with such teachings as these? The untrimmable light of the world, the ocean's shine, the prayers that are made out of grass. Moments of silence. And now the hymn is 123, Spirit of Life. We hum a verse, we sing the verse through our masks. Now we come to the point in many churches called the collection or the offering. It is our time for giving back so that generations to come will have here what we have here and more. Your offering will now be received by 2 willing volunteers. I have one, I have 2. Thank you all, and always thank you, Jackie. And now a video you may know, it's entitled One More Circle by Peter Mayer.
Down by sadness like a stone. We have yearned. We have sometimes felt so utterly alone. While we turn, while we turn, we've been stricken by the wonder of it all. Stricken down, stricken down. We have sometimes felt so faint we want to fall. Overcome, but all in all, I'd say this year in flight together has been fun. What say we make one more circle around the sun? Fists in anger and we've tried. Work it out, work it out. That we need each other we cannot deny. There's no doubt, there's no doubt. Let us leave another dream in outer space. While we're turning, while we're turning, on this planet home that holds our human race. Still our learning, all in all. Say this year in flight together has been fun. What say we make one more circle around the sun? Say this year in flight together has been a good, good one. What say we make one more circle, one more circle, one more circle around the sun. Around the sun.
Wars havoc with family life. Last Sunday in the country was Mother's Day. I've reminded you a number of times, you might say ad nauseum, that the tradition I came out of and many other denominations did not observe Mother's Day on the church calendar. And people in all my churches up north and here told me to let them know if I was going to make Mom's Day my focus, they would skip it. Too emotionally wrenching. So I've noticed whenever I am away on that day, well, maybe I'm an outlier. In many Protestant traditions, it is called Festival of the Home. So a family topic is called for. And a few of you, very few of you, will remember a number of times Ken George, our board president, wanted to be worship associate that day I was speaking. Sure, he could be the worship associate. And he would give a glowing tribute to his mom, which we enjoyed hearing. then I would do my same old song on what wasn't my topic that day. So today, I decided to talk about an aspect of family life I haven't touched on before. A funny thing happened on the way to my prepping for this. I ran across a music video on YouTube billed as saying across the top, President and Mrs. Zelensky singing Endless Love. A younger version of them both singing this very familiar song in a happier time. I could hardly contain my excitement at finding this and planning to show it and you to hear it today. But this past week, a critical faculty flashed an alert in my brain. Maybe you better fact check that video. So I did. And I also found videos on YouTube warning that it wasn't real. And it was, in fact, famous voices, not theirs, and faces that resembled them, but weren't. And just when we were beginning to totally trust the internet, our sixth UU principle is the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. That has been our goal and fervent desire, and that hasn't been our reality. Now, I just got an alert to say, I think we have some newish people here. So if you're interested, on the 7th page of our hymnal, it's not marked, you have to flip 7 pages, there are the UU principles. The 6th, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. 2 matters or experiences brought me to today's topic. A cable news show recently interviewed a historian author, Timothy Snyder, whose book, Bloodlands, one word, documents the history of slaughter both Hitler and Stalin perpetrated upon neighboring countries and upon their own populations, Bloodlands. Between 20 and 40 million deaths recorded, 20 to 40 million known. Stalin, our ally in WW2, continued his program of slaughter well past the war's end because he was given a huge swath of terrain, Eastern Europe, to continue to ethnic cleanse. The case has been made that had Hitler not scrapped, felt betrayed by the pact, actually betrayed his pact with Stalin. I'm a little thrown off here because there's somebody trying to find their way in. Dave, would you give some guidance to that person if they want to be here? The case has been made that had Hitler not scrapped, betrayed his pact with Stalin not to invade Russia, had Hitler not divided up his attention and resources, the outcome of WW2 could have been quite different. In St. Petersburg, there's a big sign that says, "We won against the great fascist aggression," as if they had defeated Germany single-handedly. As we listened to the state-supplied lecturer to our tour group about the many, many millions of Russians who died in the war, all I could think was, let them think that. They sacrificed a lot. One of the historical tidbits Timothy Snyder documents, actually something we knew, Hitler, even when he knew the war was lost, ordered his inner circle to utterly destroy Warsaw, to cement his legacy of hatred against the Slavic people and the Jews. Even in failure, he wanted history to remember how hard he had tried to rid the earth of Slavs and Jews. We'd like to say, who could forget? But we know the answer to that. On a bus tour through Warsaw, the guide mentioned there aren't many historical buildings. Everything has been rebuilt. We knew why. So here was a large part of Europe that only knew war and death for what must have seemed like eternity. On another trip we took, we got to know a Chinese-American couple. You know, in a group of touring strangers, you find people to walk with. He was a professor at Virginia Tech. As we walked and chatted, out of the blue, he brought up Chinese history we didn't know. He said, when the Japanese attacked China in the early 1900s, 14 million Chinese were killed. 14 million. And when Mao's Red Army attacked the rest of the country to defeat the nationalist Chinese led by Chiang Kai-shek, another 14 million were killed. And he added, almost 30 million. And you have never heard that documented on PBS or NPR. At that point, we were pretty sure he was referring to the documenting of the European Holocaust, but not those in Asia. Incidentally, you may have heard that Ken Burns, documentarian extraordinaire, is unleashing a new series this fall on America and the European Holocaust. I'm pretty sure it will fall under that truth making you miserable before it frees you umbrella I mention a lot. These visitations of unwanted truths brought home to me what horror war has been for all parts of the human race. Tribal genocide in Africa and in the Balkans for much of the last century, and still going on in Africa. What families here have not been scarred or marred by war? Who among us? I'm curious for a show of hands. How many family members, how many of you had family members or were family members who got called up and sent abroad for war? Surely, yeah, surely. I had an uncle, my mother's only sibling, who got married right out of high school and had 2 daughters and got shipped out to the USS Chester Nimitz in the Pacific. Now, those 3 things happened close together. I don't know the order. Around the early 40s. I wasn't there yet. I heard about it. A year or 2 later, he was discharged honorably for medical reasons and sent home. It was a mental breakdown, later diagnosed as schizophrenia. And his family, the wife and 2 daughters, escaped. And he had to live with his parents, our grandparents, who took us in also so my single mother could work. My brother and I got to play cards a lot with our uncle. Do any of you remember the card game named War? War, yeah. What I remember is, I think what I remember is, you all put down a card, and the high card took the 3. in our case 3. When we 2 kids put down a card, we just dropped it in the middle of the table, face up. Our uncle liked to slam his knuckle against the wood and hear a hard knock. I don't think we were old enough to think or to say, doesn't that hurt? But it gave us the idea, maybe he should win. His life became a cycle of police to the home for beating his parents, and jail and hospital bouts. The VA system just couldn't help him. I suspect you know similar family histories and traumas connected to wartime. War didn't do that to him, but it facilitated his long spiral into a life struggle for health. And our beloved country, right up to the present, has seemed woefully inadequate to serve the vets who came home broken or tormented from Iraq and Afghanistan. High suicide rates and long waits for therapies have not sparked government action or remedy, at least not enough. We thank vets for their service. We do not serve them well with their war-related needs. That goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. Can we linger for a moment with the unsettling questions of when and why not now? The country we all love and would not trade to live anywhere else, most days anyway, we can somehow afford the greatest, the largest defense industry in the world, all in the name of war prevention. And look at what we can't afford while we outlay all for war prevention. A basic health care for all, attention to mental health needs, greater than ever after 1 million COVID deaths in America alone. How many 60-minute segments can we take on the growing number of teen suicides? I am grateful every day that our founders put freedom of the press right up there with no established religion and freedom of speech and of assembly. Freedom surely to die for, and freedoms our democracy dies without. The free press is our only hope. But also every day I get sickened by, will he or won't he buy Twitter? Will he or won't he build the first 5-star hotel in space? I made that up. But our national fixation, our obsession with billionaires and their toys and lottery winners and their toys to come. Neon lights, a phrase from psychologist William James, a phrase that rhymes with the moral flabbiness born of the excessive worship of the witch goddess success, that, with the squalid cash interpretation put on the word success, is our national disease, William James, which cashes into whatever for war-related, pittances for health-related. Europe, which I also love and am related to by marriage, Europe lets us obsess and war prepare. And we call Europe socialist. But it, at least Germany I know, gives 2 weeks a year to mental and physical health checkup with full staff, R&R, at what we pay for and call sandals. War has been the human lot. The Hebrew and Christian scriptures are largely war literature. Israel had its roots at a crossroad between warring empires until it could only succumb to the Roman Empire. Christians had to placate the Romans by blaming the Jews for Jesus' death, even though he died in the Roman way of execution. War has been the human lot, leaving people and families in pieces, not in peace. So next Sunday, we will observe the UU Flower Communion. We ask you to bring a flower and make an array up here. You can take a different one home with you. Or after the service, those who want to, we're going to walk to the vaults and have a moment of remembrance for the saints who are there and other saints that are with us here. Flower communion next week. Norman, I'm not sure if his name is pronounced Kapek or Chapek, a Czech, started out as a Baptist, went on to Moravians, and came out to Unitarianism. Does that sound like anybody we know? Because he withstood heresy trials, Norman Kapek. He crafted the flower communion because he felt UU was a little short on ritual. This was his gift in war-torn Europe to advance religious diversity. Look, I promise not to come back from every vacation with a rant. But while I was off and enjoying unboxing and unpacking, it felt like we were at war. I think you had a little bit of that feeling in the market. At war. With the shocking development that we knew was coming from the Supreme Court, it seemed like the war on modernity and on diversity had begun. The most popular news outlet in America is big on the war on Christmas, but silent on the real war. Somehow the war on women's rights seems just like the beginning. It reminds me of that famous statement of Pastor Niemöller. They came for the Jews and nobody stood up. They came for the Roman Catholics and nobody stood up. They came for the homosexuals and nobody stood up. Finally, they came for us and there was nobody left to stand up. Correct me later, but could you be in the line of people who just aren't part of the 1950s vision of America that a minority won't let go of? I had to write down this for Maureen Dowd this morning. There are prior worldviews at work in this upheaval. We got that, don't we? There are prior worldviews at work in this upheaval. And she, a devout Catholic. I say it feels like war, a feeling I don't want. I think it's a prophet from Hebrew scripture. The people cry, peace, peace, but there is no peace. Our closing hymn is number 100, 4 verses. I think I picked verses 1, 4, 5, and 6. 4 verses, peace like a river. Let's sing through our masks. Jackie, is that Doug playing along with you?
Yes, it is.
We owe you, Doug.
Yes, we do.
Tell him we say thank you.
You know, sometimes I don't call him and do this with him, and then he says, Jackie, why didn't you call me last week? I said, there was a singer-songwriter.
Well, we thank you both. These are the closing words as Deb extinguishes. We like to sing Peace Like a River. We like to sing Let There Be Peace on Earth, and let it begin with me, with all of us. But peace is work and priorities the world has never known. Community, peace, liberty, justice for all.
Truth.
Thank you.